The prison cell is silent. Cold stone walls, damp air, just the sound of a ticking clock somewhere behind the door. She doesn't tremble. She doesn't beg. She straightens her uniform, brushes a stray hair from her forehead, then folds her hands in her lap and waits. Outside, the guards ready their rifles. It's October 12th, 1915, Brussels. And in the morning fog, a British nurse is about to be executed by the German army for saving lives. Her name is Edith Cavell. When war broke out in 1914, Belgium was caught between empires. The German invasion came fast, too fast. Cities fell, soldiers scattered, and civilians were caught in the middle. In the chaos, hospitals became sanctuaries. But Edith's clinic in Brussels did more than care for the wounded. It became a lifeline. She wasn't a soldier. She carried no weapon. She wore a nurse's uniform and gave care without discrimination. British, French, German. It didn't matter. But beneath the bandages and antiseptic, she was running a network. Over 200 Allied soldiers had passed through her doors, hiding in basements, moving by night, guided across the Dutch border under the eyes of the enemy. She knew the risks. Spies were everywhere. The German military police were ruthless. Harboring Allied troops was treason. But Edith kept going. She believed in duty, not to a flag, but to humanity. "I can't stop," she once said. "I must do something." It was a child, barely 13, who betrayed them. A runner, caught with a forged pass. One arrest became 2, then 5, then 20, and then Edith. They took her quietly, interrogated her without sleep. She admitted everything, not out of fear, but because she refused to lie, even when it became clear what the penalty would be. The German military court gave no leniency, no consideration for her role as a nurse, no recognition of her compassion. She was labeled a traitor, a saboteur, and sentenced to death. The British government was helpless. Belgium was occupied. Protests came from diplomats, churches, even neutral nations. The American ambassador pleaded for clemency. The Spanish government sent urgent messages to Berlin. The Red Cross begged for mercy, but the orders held. She was to be executed at dawn. In her final hours, Edith wrote letters, not of anger, not of protest, but of peace. She forgave her captors. She asked only that her friends be comforted. And then, in a quiet voice, she spoke the words that would echo for decades. "Patriotism is not enough. I must have no hatred or bitterness toward anyone." At 7 a.m., she was led into the yard of the Tier National Prison. No blindfold, no last-minute reprieve. The rifles fired. She collapsed without a sound. Word of her death spread quickly. Across Belgium, it sparked fear. Across Britain, it sparked fury. Newspapers printed her photo with black borders. Churches held vigils. Soldiers carved her name into trench walls. She became a symbol, not just of martyrdom, but of moral clarity in a war losing its soul. Edith Cavell's execution shocked the world because it stripped away the illusion that war could ever be civilized. It wasn't just soldiers dying in the mud anymore. It was nurses, healers, women who refused to look away. The Germans would come to regret the decision. Propaganda posters soon showed her face next to the words, "Murdered by the Hun." Recruitment surged. Funds poured in, and her story became legend. But Edith never asked to be a hero. She never raised her voice, never sought headlines. She believed only in service, quiet, relentless service, until the end. And more than a century later, her name still stands not as a symbol of vengeance, but of courage, of choosing conscience over safety, and of a woman who held her ground with nothing but her hands folded in her lap, and the unshakable belief that right was still right, even in the dark. Thank you for listening to Last Post History. Subscribe for more stories of courage, sacrifice, and the moments that echo long after the war ends.